do you recognise the link between fossil fuels and carbon? And what is Saudi's position on climate change, the Paris Agreement, and the 2 degrees target?
Well, Saudi Arabia, of course, has ratified the Paris Agreement. So we're committed, and I participated personally in COP22 in Marrakesh, and indicated in my statement that we intend to meet our obligations, the NDCs that we have signed on. And through the negotiation process, which took a long time, as we all know, Saudi Arabia has been a key participant in the debate and the negotiations. And we and our GCC colleagues have successfully been able to convince the global community to come up with a flexible framework within COP21 that allows each country to contribute, given its own circumstances. So what we talked about earlier, the diversification and the mitigation efforts that Saudi Arabia will do economically as the world transitions to a less fossil fuel intensive global economy, will be counted as part of our contributions, as well as the technologies and reducing our energy intensity from the business as usual scenario. So we're committed. The US has been a key partner of ours. We have discussed with numerous administrations, both Republican and Democrat, how to make this transition globally flexible enough to allow economies like the US, which also have a very high energy intensity and rely on fossil fuels like us, to also be able to adapt within this framework. And I am sure that ultimately the US will do the right thing. I mean, the new administration, I can't speak for them, they will go through their transition and adjustment process. We will be engaged closely with the new administration. We consider the United States to be one of our strongest allies, and we're proud of that relationship. We're going to engage with the new administration once they assume office and make sure that going forward into the implementation of COP21, that we are working together as partners to make sure that the objective I talked about earlier, that you raised, that the global population has access to affordable but sustainable energy.
Let me just drill down slightly on this. And so what is your view on the calls for keeping fossil fuels in the ground in order to meet these climate targets?
I don't think we need to do that. In fact, I believe that without the fossil fuels, by constraining their production, you actually are going to have a less sustainable global economy. We have seen biofuels create more emissions than fossil fuels. We have seen people in poverty create more damage to the world's ecosystem than people who have access. Fossil fuels will need to be further improved through efficiency, through carbon mitigation, through carbon capture. I talked about a number of pathways that we know, but there are many other things that we don't know yet. And technology is going to be key. Economic development is not an option, it's an imperative. And I think we have to work, and economic development will not happen without accessible, affordable energy. And I cannot see renewables alone doing it. Renewables will have to grow very, very fast beyond our capabilities today, and still there will be significant growth of fossil fuel demand.
To that point, it's a fairly ambitious move to burn much less fuel in the future when you are a country in this region, but the UAE itself has announced plans to invest $163 billion to boost the use of alternative energy over the next 3 decades. This strategy, we are told, should save the Emirates some 190 billion over the same period. Can you put a bit of flesh on the bones of the KSA's, Saudi's vision when it comes to investment in clean energy?
Well, let me take this opportunity. Today is Global Action Day, so this is the first time we talk about a specific program, and I'm pleased to announce that we will be launching in the next few weeks in Saudi Arabia, the first bid round of our massive program to introduce renewables. This is close to 10 gigawatts. It's going to cost $30 to $50 billion, and it will all be in place, installed, operational by 2023 or thereabouts. That's the target. So some bid rounds will go, like I said, in the next few weeks, and we invite the global industry to come and participate. In addition to, and this is going to be solar, wind, a little bit of geothermal, and waste to energy, but it's primarily wind and solar. And it's going to be based on a localization pathway that we would require all bidders to invest in the supply chain of goods and services in the kingdom. And the reason is 10 gigawatts is only the beginning. This is a multi-phase approach. I'm not able to give you the number that will be equivalent to what my colleagues in the Emirates have announced in terms of where we will be in 2050. I can almost guarantee that in absolute terms we will be bigger because our scale is much bigger and our growth rate will be bigger. But that's not to take away from anything that the Emirates have done. Also, and as I mentioned in the Atlantic Council, our endowment in Saudi Arabia is still undefined. We still have a significant part of the kingdom that has been unexplored yet to date. So we believe we still have a lot of gas to find, and I talked about 70% is based on what we know. Well, there's still a lot we don't know. So we want to explore, we want to find out how much gas, we want to look as we develop this first phase of 10 gigawatts, what is the break-even cost, what is the storage capabilities, and how can we balance? We have also a very high cycling in Saudi Arabia that is almost 50% between peak and so renewables at a very high penetration will present us with a problem. And unless we have trading and interconnection and being able to back it up, the cost could be much more than the delivered cost per unit that we will be purchasing from the IPP supplier. So for those reasons, I cannot give a 30, 40-year projection. But what I can assure is that the first phase is really just the first phase. The last comment I want to make is we're also moving on nuclear. We are in the, in the feed phase, in the early feasibility and design phase of our first two reactors. We're doing site selection, we're doing technology development. So Saudi Arabia is also serious about nuclear, and you will see a significant investment in nuclear for civilian purposes.
Can you reveal the sort of scope that you are talking about?
We're looking at probably initially, again, phase one is two reactors, 2.8 gigawatts. These will be, the newest and the best technology, the safest, obviously, and they will complement the 10 gigawatts of renewables to be followed by other phases of renewable.
I listened to your speech at the Atlantic Council. You have given us here in Abu Dhabi your time and your narrative, which has been absolutely compelling. I want to, and we have to wind up because I know that both you and I need to jump on planes. We're running just a little bit late here. So just a final question to you. You have been kind enough to lay out where you see the mega energy trends. You've also been very honest about where you see the realities for policymakers. If I were just to ask you in closing here, where you see the biggest risks or threats to a sustainable future, what would they be?
Well, obviously, we have seen that the volatility in the oil markets hurting renewables. So while some may see it weakening fossil fuels and therefore advantageous to renewables, we have seen the opposite. So I think an unstable global energy system is not good for renewables. So we need market stability. I have been advocating joint action to try to stabilize markets for multiple reasons, and this is one of them. We've seen also global financial and economic shocks, hurting finance and flows of capital, trade conflicts and disputes are also not good. Chinese have done a great job in bringing down the cost of solar in particular. The rest of the world needs access to this. So we need a transparent, open trade system to allow the flow of goods, but also the flow of experiences. Finance needs to flow. Developers that succeed somewhere need to have access to other markets facilitated by global transparency and a stable economic and energy system. So if we have all of these, and if we put our mind to the ultimate objective is 7 billion people going to 9, having access to affordable, sustainable energy, and the global community at large, but certainly those of us in the energy industry are needing to be having a singular focus. But this is our mission, this is our obligation.
With that, we're going to leave it there. We thank you very, very much.